started. This is the Successful Home Inspector Show, and I'm here today with my good friend Paul Jamison. I've known Paul a long time. If you were from this area, you would know Paul because he's all over the radio. He's famous, and he really, I'm surprised he doesn't have his own show on HGTV, to be honest with you. But Paul, I want to say thank you for being with us. I know you're a real estate agent, and this show is primarily for home inspectors. But we're hoping to improve the profession and improve relations between realtor and home inspector because we both got a job, and we both want what's best for the client.
Right, absolutely.
Things don't work out great, but we're trying to bridge that gap and try to do what's best for the client. So anyway, tell us a little bit about you, Paul. We want to know you personally.
Well, I am a grandfather and a husband, and been in the real estate business a long time in this area, originally from Cincinnati, and have seen the lows and the highs, and like the highs better.
Right.
But it's certainly enjoy what this market has to offer and what's to come. As we were talking about before, I'm a eternal optimist, and know that the solution is certainly hard work and the grace of the good Lord, and you just keep on going.
I hear you, Paul. I hear you. Well, tell me, Paul. Most kids don't grow up saying, I want to be a home inspector or a realtor.
No.
I wanted to be a pilot.
Yeah.
And I crawl under houses for a living. So I'm curious, how did you get into the real estate business? What's your background? How'd you get, and what did you want to be as a kid, by the way?
Gosh, I don't remember. I think I probably did what every kid did. I went to the top three on a daily basis: fireman, policeman, doctor.
That's what all the
And
girls
yeah, exactly.
The uniform thing.
That's it, definitely. And of course had the fortunate result of being able to be a pilot, and so I enjoyed that. Yeah,
nice.
flew a lot, and flew a lot of all over the country, and enjoyed that for many years. So I had a good time with that. No, just a private pilot, and I come from advertising, so I was in the advertising business for almost 30 years, but invested in real estate and drew a passion for it. And next thing you know, when I retired from that career, I'm in real estate.
That's right.
So.
Yeah, Steve used to work for you, didn't he?
Steve worked for me and was a great asset. And then he jumped into real estate after I got my license. He got his a couple years later.
I
And
see where he honed his skills.
yeah,
He's a great teacher.
he's a smart fellow.
I see. Well, like I said, Paul, most of our listeners are primarily home inspectors. And I'm trying to think of a politically correct way to say this.
Just say it.
Well, a lot of home inspectors, when I go to the local meetings, that realtor, all they care about is their commission. Not all home inspectors, but some of them are that way. And there's kind of this feeling of, I'm not on the realtor's leash. I work for my client. And I'm just like, stop it. I said, we both want what's best for the client.
That's right.
If the realtor truly was only about their commission, I said, guys, here's the thing. A realtor sells one house. They want to sell another house to their family, their friends.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't do a good job by them. It's all about relationships.
Right.
And so if you would, I'd like the home inspectors to know out there, tell us what it's like to prospect, to get somebody from, who's interested in buying or selling a house, to get them from there to the closing table.
Right.
Just tell us what that process is like.
Right. Well, if I were to sit across from someone and they were to say to me, I want you to represent me as a buyer, or I want you to represent me as my listing agent, and they begin to negotiate with me. They want to negotiate sometimes over fees. They want to negotiate with me related to financial situations. And one of the things that I share with them, which is very important, is that I am an investor in their listing, in their experience, because not only am I investing in them, I don't get paid unless, if you talk about the financial piece, I don't get paid unless the deal happens.
Right.
They can leave, they can not sell the house, or the house cannot be sold during the process, and it's very expensive.
Absolutely.
So as an investor in the process, it's truly something that a lot of people don't understand. We spend an awful lot of money not only to get that lead, but also to execute that lead. And so for every 10 listings that we have, the typical average is you sell about 66% or 2/3 of those. So 1/3 of those typically goes away and doesn't sell.
You lost that investment.
And the investment is totally gone. The other side to that scenario, the other half of the answer is just like you are a very relationally driven person. You develop relationships with multiple companies, multiple networks. I mean, the other day, when you made your Christmas rounds, you made how many visits?
32.
Okay, that's astronomical, okay? But the reality is for every sale that I make, for every touch that I make, I'm expecting to get a 20% return on that touch. So each and every relationship, each and every referral, I have to do 5 sales to get 1 additional sale through relationship driving. So it's just like you. It's all about relationships. It's about who you know. It's about the experience. And it's about 100% of the experience, not just 5, 10, or 15. Right.
Well, and what I was hoping, and you brought it home there to home inspectors, that they sort of get a feel for how much work it is to get to the point where they're actually doing the inspection.
Right.
That didn't just fall out of the sky.
Right.
And obviously, you want to do a good job, do a good inspection, but what you don't want to do is alarm them unnecessarily or be
Right.
an alarmist. No, we do not want to sugarcoat anything. We all work for the client, but we don't want to alarm them, and I'm sure it makes agents frustrated when they put so much work in it to see it go down if they have an inspector who's an alarmist. Now, granted, I'm sure there's people out there listening, he's a realtor lackey. No, that's not it at all. If there's a problem, it needs to be on the report, but don't scare people overly stories.
Right. Yeah, you know what's interesting is you get that report. The report is, in my view, it's in 3 segments. It's the summary, which is what I use as kind of a first point of reference. Then there's an extensive detail that goes around those items. And then the third piece is the CYA piece. It's all the stuff that you've got to have in there because you don't want, and it's like 100 pages, right? So if you look at the report itself, what I love to do with an inspector is I like to, in front of the client, say, okay, help me just go through this. And what is it that I see? What do you feel is important? And make it a collaborative effort, because I have to communicate this information, and I'm not an inspector. I'm not an appraiser. I'm not an inspector. I'm not a CPA or a lawyer. So even though I slept at a Holiday Inn Express last night, however, I think it's important, Preston, that there's this level of collaboration where if I sit down with guys in your office, I'm like, tell me where I need to draw a line in the sand. And they do that with me on an ongoing basis because I really want to know.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for going through the report like that. We have some that, they move in and they get an outcome that isn't favorable, and we go back and it's in the report. It was in the report. And
Yeah.
Anyway, so what, being a realtor, I'm sure there's ups and downs. What do you like best about your job, and what do you like least about your job?
Oh gosh. I would say that there's so many pieces to the transaction. From the outside, you consummate a contract. You put a home under contract, and everybody's high-five and cheering. That's only about 25% of the actual transaction. There's still multiple negotiations and a bank typically involved.
Hard conversations sometimes.
Exactly. And very truthful conversations that can win or lose the client just because you really want to. And emotions are involved. This is such an emotional decision. So I like the emotion, and I also don't like the emotion. I like the art of the deal, and I also don't like the art of the deal. I like the inspection. I also don't like the inspection. So there are pieces to every transaction where you can easily have an exchange, Preston, and say, I love the fact that we were able to protect our client on this new home that they just bought from a girder that was not connected correctly.
Right.
I hate having to tell my client that this brand new home has this really big issue that may, if not communicated correctly, could scare them away.
Right.
You know, but if it's communicated correctly and fixed and explained that there's a way to fix it the proper way and for them not to worry, I'm a happy guy. But you have a brand new first-time home buyer. They're so nervous, they're so scared, they don't understand anything. That's why I lean so heavily on the home inspector. And if they scare them, the deal's over.
I always like to say it like this, Paul. Put things in perspective. There's no perfect house. There's no perfect child.
That's right.
All you moms out there, my wife. Everything that strengths and weaknesses.
Notice I stayed quiet.
Yeah.
I did. Yeah. Sorry, Meg. Sorry, Meg. It's all right, Meg.
Well, moving on, and I'm sort of all over the board because I like to get to
Feel free.
know you personally. Do you have a success quote? Can you tell us a time maybe that it applies to you, or what you have a success quote that's one of your favorites?
Well, my tagline at Jamison is "Real estate done different."
I love
It's bad English.
it. You get those calls.
And I get calls. Bad English. What's the matter with you? Exactly. But the reality is that there's a reason that I say that, and call me old-fashioned, but the reason that I say that is that anything that's worthwhile, especially in our business, takes hard work.
Absolutely.
And if you're willing to put in the hard work, and you're willing to do those things, and you care more about the future and the relationships than you do anything else, you'll be successful. And that's why I say to people, I am done different. I answer the phone. I call you back. I tell you what you need to hear, even if you don't like it. And if you fire me over it, I'm going to sleep at night.
And that's true what he said, because I've texted him just that he's right back, and it's very true. And I love the done different. It sticks in your mind.
Yeah.
And every time my wife hears it, I say, I know, it's not her because she's a school teacher. Like, he does that on purpose. I mean, it's like poetry. You know how like you have this.
That's right.
I had a poetry class because I thought that would be an easy class. It was so hard.
Yeah.
But they vary from they have like a rhythm, and something will vary from the rhythm because they want to get your attention.
That's right.
But anyway, you've been in real estate a long time, Paul, and you've seen the process a million times. What's your pet peeve when it comes to home inspectors? And, it can be us, it can be another. And you when you're on the listing side, you don't control who the home inspector is. What's your pet peeve?
Well, again, I think it's the alarmist. There are some home inspectors, you do not do this, but there are some home inspectors on the market that will put prices of repairs into the home inspection. That, to me, is one of the most awful things that you can do. Just like I am not qualified to give legal advice, I do not believe that the home inspector should be putting costs of a negotiable trade or repair into a home inspection. It is just, to me, it's a bad practice.
There's no rule against it, but it's frowned upon, but there should be a rule against it.
There should be, you're right.
Number one, if they are doing the repair, well, first of all, I don't see how you can price something that you're not doing the repairs on. Like if I tell you that, replacing that band seal's, $3,000, and you go in and ask for that, and then you get it fixed and it's $5,000, you're going to be like, what?
That's right.
That's bad, number one. Number two, if I was the one repairing it, isn't it a conflict of interest?
See, that's my point.
Really need to be replaced, or am I just manufacturing work for myself?
That's correct.
Either way, it's bad.
It's like a realtor bonus.
Yeah.
Okay? In my view, if I'm offered a bonus, in most cases, I just give it to the client, because I don't want there to ever be a perception that I'm showing you this house because I'm getting a bonus.
That's good practice. What do you look for in an inspector, Paul?
Non-alarmist.
No,
Honest, straightforward answers.
This is a real live realtor for everybody who's listening who's been in business and very successful. You're hearing it from him. It's not just me saying it. Shifting gears a little bit. What do you do when you're not buying or selling real estate, Paul? What do you do for fun? What did the
I,
Jamesons
I look at real estate online.
do? Real estate for fun.
I do. I enjoy it. I mean, it's something that when I changed careers, I decided to be one of those guys that does what he loves, and I do. I look at real estate online, and I have rental properties, and I have a property management firm as well. So, I mean, I'm engaged in the market and what's happening. And I mess around with old cars too. But,
I hear. Well, there is a quote out there. I forget who said it, but if you find a job you love, you'll never work a day in your life.
yeah.
Sort of.
Well, it's not exactly true in real estate. You got to work, but you know, there's something that gets you up in the morning to keep going.
When you're excited to get up and it's tough to go to bed, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
When you got the opposite problem, you got problems.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, marketing is a large part of your business and ours.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who don't know, this guy's one of the best. Do you have any tips you could give inspectors on marketing? What would you, these are inspectors all over the country.
Yeah, I would say that you need to develop relationships with key realtors. Know that we are the point of reference, the recommendation from us, whether it's a pre-inspection or a post-inspection or a new build inspection, that if you commit some time to educating the realtors on important things. We spent just an hour in there. You continue to give an education to people. It wasn't about Preston Sandlin's business. It was about educating the market. So the more time you invest in educating the realtor, the better it will be in the relationships that you have with us.
Excellent, excellent. And what Paul's referring to, we just did the radio show. Paul has a weekly radio show, Your Real Estate Today. If you ever want to check it out, it's WBT. You can listen to it online.
Yeah, WBT.com, then go to the shows tab and scroll down to Your Real Estate Today, and you can do a podcast or stream it. Yeah.
I'll have that in the show notes.
Okay. Okay.
Again, I'm kind of shifting back and forth.
Go ahead.
Do you have a favorite book? I know you're an avid reader. Do you have a favorite book you would recommend?
Well, right now I'm reading an interesting book by Gary Keller, of all folks, called The One Thing.
Absolutely.
And it really helps you hone in on what is important.
Right.
And I'm doing that with my whole team right now. So one thing I would suggest, if you're not doing that, is if you have a group of inspectors that work for you, is at your meetings, take about 20 minutes, get a book that everybody has a copy of, and treat it like a book club. And that's what we're doing at Jamison, is we're doing a book club around that book, and everyone participates.
That is excellent. Hey, man, I need to write that down. But, no, that's good. That is good. All right, this is going to be a little tricky here.
Go ahead.
We have all failed at some point in our life or didn't have an outcome that we wanted. Tell us about a time that you failed and maybe what you learned from it, and take us to that moment. Make us feel it.
Okay. I very rarely ever go on vacation, but I had my schedule laid out, and as we all know, schedules change, and a closing actually got changed to the date while I was on vacation. So I had worked with this couple. I had been their star. I had helped them through everything. I had taken care of all the dotted the I's and crossed the T's, so I thought. I left town to go on vacation. I was even Skyping at the closing, sitting. They set the phone down. What I did not do was make arrangements for another realtor of mine to go do a final walkthrough. And it cost me severely. And the house was a mess. The repairs were not finished. And so what I did was I stepped forward and cleaned their house. I paid for all the repairs that had not been completed out of my own pocket. And I took care of everything that needed to be done. Even though they were upset and they yelled at me, their sisters yelled at me, their parents yelled at me, I made them whole.
But you know what? I mean, it like you said, it hurt, I'm sure.
Right.
But you turned that, somebody said you can take a bad situation and make it an opportunity because you did that. And even though they yelled at you at the moment, if they really sat and think about it, I would definitely call you the next time because
I hope they do.
There's a lot of realtors that wouldn't have done
I hope they do. You know, you never can control that. But again, I did the right thing. And I think what's interesting with a home inspector, if you miss something, we all miss something. If you miss something, just own it.
that. Yeah, I can show you some checks I've
I know that, and I know you have. And, you know, but again, it's a part of being in this business.
Absolutely. You got to budget for it. You do the best you can.
Right.
All right, so since we talked about a failure moment, do you have an I made it moment? And I know we always feel like we can do better, but has there ever been a time when Paul Jamison said, I came that way, or you saw something happening, I made it moment?
Well, I don't know if it's an I made it moment, but I think it's one of those moments where you end up somewhere and you look back, certainly by the grace of the good Lord, or by whatever accident, by whatever. I don't believe there's anything accidents. I don't think things happen by luck. I think they happen for a reason. But I ended up in the property management business by mistake, in my view, but certainly purposefully, as I said before. So I hired a property management company to manage my rentals, and they failed. I ended up finding the renter, I ended up managing the repairs, and I ended up paying them for a year. So when I fired them, someone noticed that I had these properties and that I was managing them, and it was Marissa Boyle. And she actually offered me some properties to manage, which turned into a relationship with a private company, which turned into growing my business into property management, which feeds the real estate firm at a time when things were hard. That's a residual-based business that has helped us catapult forward. So now we manage about 300 homes for private owners, and it's still growing.
The cool thing about your business is you have all kinds of options for people. Not everybody needs to sell their house.
That's correct.
Some people would be better off renting.
That's correct.
You have, one of the only, I don't know if the only, but there's not that many firms that I know that can do all
Run
the
dual.
things that you
Right. We'll list a house for sale or for lease sometimes and see which is better for the owner.
Well, and sometimes, there's something happening, a shopping center or something that property is going to go up in value.
They just want to hold it. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, Paul, I want to apologize for all home inspectors out there and the length of reports. We talked about one of those three components you were talking about.
The CYA piece, you mean?
Yeah.
You guys can't control the other part of it.
They're not anything like they were 10 years ago. If I look at a home inspection report from 10 years ago, it's probably a third of the size.
Right.
But I'm telling you, I have gotten callbacks on things that was on the report, but we didn't tell them how bad it was. We weren't clear enough.
Right, I understand.
You told me the front of that column was rotten, but not the back of it. Like, you wouldn't replace the whole column? It's just like, so the disclaimers, and I hate it, but I'm telling you, if you could have seen some of this stuff, it's just crazy. Just curious, do you have any ideas or opinions on how we could, I think a lot of it has to do with setting expectations, but do you have any ideas on that? Or I'd like to see the reports slim down. I don't know if we're ever going to see it again.
Yeah, I think for me, every single report has the CYA section. I'd love to be able to segment that out just to save the paper and because it's all the same on the back portion of the report. And to be able to print the summary report first and then have the option to print the other sections instead of trying to figure out how many pages it is down and line up my printer with the other.
Some more cartridges.
It's almost like that button when you download something and they say, by clicking this button, you do receive the. But again, in your business, I would assume that that's hard because it's because when it goes to the client, each and every client needs to see all those disclaimers in order to protect and cover you. We, on the other hand, we've already seen it. We get it.
Yeah.
But for me, if it can be smaller, because I really only spend any time on that summary report and then referencing the pages that I need for, to be able to prepare the documents to negotiate the repairs.
That's great. And again, I want to apologize on behalf of all of us. But I just tell you, if you could see some of the wacky, and now I get it too. I used to be kind of, no matter, like you said, no matter what you download, buy, you hear all the disclaimers, and you're just like, I get it. I know why they're doing it, because at some point they've had somebody
Yep.
come at them
Yep.
with one of those things.
That slept in a Holiday Inn Express, yeah.
That's it. We're almost done here. But let's, a couple things. Another problem I run into in our business, your business, is opportunistic contractors. And these have gotten the two worst. I'm not just flat tell you, the mold and the HVAC fix.
Yep.
When you see that $69 tune-up, you know what that is? That's code for lead generation.
Sure.
You really think they're going to come out there and just tune the thing up, $69? They're going to tell you need this, this, and this. And
Capacitor.
and the mold,
Right.
it's out of control. Now,
Yes, it is.
I am not saying there's not toxic mold. There
Right.
is, and there are certain houses. But there's also, it's not regulated. And there's some companies out there, just the fact that you call them to test for mold, they're mold salesmen.
Well, there's mold in the air.
Yeah, there's mold in here.
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
get cheese in the basket, or cut the cheese. But I guess my problem is, we're entrepreneurs, and I get entrepreneurs, and I get salesmanship, but I don't get selling people stuff they don't need and using fear to do it. That bothers me. And personally, what happened, it bothers me, period. If it doesn't pass the mom test, I always look at it this way. If somebody did this to my mom, and I'd be ready to fisticuffs him. If it wouldn't pass my mom test, it shouldn't pass anybody's mom test. Because
That's right.
everybody's somebody's mom or somebody's
Right.
dad. Do you have any ideas on how we can prevent this or stop it or control it? It just seems to be getting worse to me.
Right. What's interesting is the word mold carries so many connotations, from cheese all the way down to light mildew that can be on a tub. Okay? And it's very, very hard for a first-time home buyer or someone that doesn't have the maturity level, when they read the word mold, all the alarms go off just simply because of the bad press that things have happened. My kids they cannot breathe. Even in the rental business, we've seen where tenants will try to use that against you with doctor visits and liability claims related to that to get out of a lease. So, I think it is a poison that the words are used to try to gain in an unfair way. So, I wish I had an answer. All I know is that I wish they would put a classification on things where light mildew, even though it has to be disclosed that it's mold, but I don't know how you do that, because we're not mold. We don't have test kits out in the field to decide what is what.
Sure, and everybody reacts to it differently too. Something might bother you or me, but not bother the next person.
That's right. I'm allergic to fragrances, so but not everybody is, and I can get just as sick from fragrance as I can from mold, and so it's hard, because then if you don't claim for it, you're going to get stuck with the liability on it.
It's a minefield.
Again, I think if the inspector is talking to me and the buyer or the seller, if it's a pre-inspection, and we're being very clear about that communication, again, it's that transference to say, I have to put it in the report. It's there in the report because it exists, but this is not something to worry about.
Yeah. Well, what we do is, if we see something, that's obviously some type of fungus growth, we will say it. But other than that, what kills me about these guys are, I've seen them scare somebody in a perfectly, in my mind, healthy crawl space, because I come out of there with dust, because mold, the spores land on moisture. If it's dusty and dry, and but they will scare it. It's just.
I've seen it too, and again, I see it typically from the fox guarding the hen house type scenario. I see a lot of that, especially around repairs, and then once the mold guy comes, it's all over.
And I've seen a really bad crawl space, and what a bad crawl space looks like to me is, Paul, I go to it's wet, the insulation is just drooping water, and they're all hanging, and it's just, there's stuff growing, basically mushroom. That is bad. But I've had ones that look great, look like 90% of them out there. I'm dusty when I get out of there, and the mold guy says it's toxic mold.
Yes, exactly.
They need $12,000.
Yes, of course. Or a sealed crawl space is the only way to handle it.
They're mold salesmen.
Yes.
But anyway, and there's some good ones out there too. All right, do you have an internet resource you'd be willing to share with a favorite?
For any type of thing?
Business, we're all business entrepreneurship, or something that helps, or you like to use a lot. Or an app or something that you think's good.
Well, I like the Realtor.com app. I use it quite a bit. And I use Zillow, but not for the purpose that most people use it for. If I'm with a client and they're comfortable with Zillow, I use the mapping function so that they can look at the houses that have been sold or leased as we're driving in the car on an iPad so that they can get an interactive picture of what's going on. I don't use it for anything else.
Cool. If you could change anything about the real estate process, what would you change?
I would make it simpler.
I have a lot of classes with Bill Gallagher, and he goes through the whole thing. Somebody brought him. It was a one-page contract years ago, and now it's
Yeah.
like
It's 12, 13.
all these addenda.
Yeah, right. And now oil and gas rights are incorporated, and it's one thing after another.
See, the home inspection report, they're both.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be saving trees here.
Yeah.
If you could change something about the inspection component, what would you change?
I think that there should be a required communication between the buyer-seller and the inspector to go through the report. I think it should be. I think it should be
You
required.
did a big amen for me, and people probably riding in the car listening to this.
Yeah. I think it should be required.
Excellent. Or like a check, like I have read this over, and check. Because so many times it's in the report, and it's obvious they didn't read it. And then they go to, well, you didn't make it clear.
Even if it's done on the phone, even if it's done Skype, FaceTime, I think. And the other thing is, if the inspector even wants to record some narrative that can be attached to a digital version of the report, it'd be a neat way to do it too.
We're going to start having our guys wear GoPros.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
For documentation purposes and being able to see what's.
I think it's a great idea.
If I'm buying or selling a house, why should I choose you over a competitor? What real estate done different? What's done different at Jamison?
Well,
You kind of said it.
I've got the experience. I've been through an awful lot, although I haven't seen everything. But again, it's about communication, and it's about response. It's about answering the phone, and it's about telling the truth. And if you package those things together, that's what we're about. We're not perfect, but we sure as heck work hard.
And they do. They really do. Just got 3 questions left.
Okay, go ahead.
Appreciate you taking the time on your weekend here to talk to me. Here, this is going to be kind of, I think about this for you. Let's say you had to start all over, new town, new business, but you still have all the knowledge you currently have. You just don't know anybody. All your food, shelter, and all that's taken care of. You've got all the equipment, car, and all that. You just start in a brand new place. And let's say you had $5,000 to start marketing. What would you do the first week if you were to do real estate?
Yeah, probably so. Very first thing I would do would be go to the local Chamber of Commerce. Get whatever connections they have, look at a membership, look at joining and being a part of the business community. Because you can meet an awful lot of people that may own businesses, but they're also home buyers and they're also local. And they want to see that you're supporting your community. I think it's important. I would also try to meet as many town officials from Public Works all the way up to commissioners. And
You've had the mayor of Matthews on your radio show.
right. We're good friends. But I think first of all is where are some inlets that you can get into in the community, and that stuff's free with the exception of a chamber membership. No, a couple $100. So I'm going to take the rest of the money then, and I'm going to look at what is the target market that I can best serve. For me, it's typically a move-up home buyer and an investor. And where do those people reside? How do they communicate with each other? And what is the typical demographic of where they where they live and where they reside. So I'm either going to communicate with them via email or snail mail through a mailer, or I'm going to try to find an outlet at a local media channel like a radio station or a television station. And how can I economically talk to them? That's true. That's true.
It is not cheap. I'll tell you.
No, it isn't, but it's effective. How many phone calls did we get today, Preston?
Tons.
Okay.
Paul does a contest. Today he had 25 top real estate mistakes.
Right.
And he offered a prize. Somebody could guess number one. And the phone was just ringing off the hook.
Yeah.
And in the old days, we would just do it and just have call-ins, but not really. The contest is really cool.
Right.
Really
So we got, what would you say today? 20 calls?
probably.
Okay, so we got 20 calls today. There's 20 people there that spoke to us live on the air, and we probably had another 5,000 or 6,000 people that listened at a minimum.
Right.
Okay, today we didn't sell anything. We didn't push anything. We educated people. Yeah.
Good stuff. All right, last two questions. Is there something that I should have asked you that I didn't?
I think it's important for us to always ask each other. You ask the question, how can we make ourselves better? How can you make yourself better? And then but again, I think the key is what's coming that could stop us from doing that. And I think the one key thing, there's so many legal regulations that you face and that I face that can turn our businesses off in a day, and mistakes that we make, and if we make a mistake, what is the most important thing to you and to me if we make a mistake and things change the next day? And for me, I bet it's the exact same for you, and that is if you make a mistake, what is the very first thing you want to do? And that is step up to the plate, admit it, own it, and deal with it as soon as you possibly can. Because the longer you wait, the higher the risk.
And the higher the price is going to get too.
Exactly. That's why it's so silly that people don't do pre-inspections.
Right.
Is because if you address the problem when you have the control and you're not in the middle of the transaction,
Right.
I mean, I would love to see 2015 be the year for all inspectors to be the year of pre-inspections, because pre-inspection is money, and that's never marketed enough.
Absolutely. I'm sure I'm big amen. Well, Paul, you've been more than gracious with your time today. People want to learn more about you, and I know you said earlier in the show, but let's say it again. How can they listen to you on the radio, and how could they find out more about you?
Right. If they want to listen to me, WBT.com, go to the shows tab, and it's My Real Estate Today. If they want to jump to our website, it's myjamisonhomes.com, or pick up the phone. It's 846-DONE, 846-704-846-3663.